Do you know someone who stares at their laptop for 8 hours, accomplishes almost nothing, and ends the day feeling more exhausted than when they started? Someone who cannot focus for more than 5 minutes before reaching for their phone, checking social media, or refreshing their email for the 17th time? Someone whose brain feels like it is running on a hamster wheel, spinning faster and faster, but going absolutely nowhere? That was Sarah, a graduate student I worked with 2 years ago. She would sit in the library surrounded by textbooks, highlighters, and 3 different cups of coffee, but her mind refused to cooperate. Every paragraph she read dissolved into fog. Every concept slipped through her fingers like water. She was not lazy. She was not stupid. Her brain was simply drowning in a sea of cortisol and overstimulation. Here is what most people do not understand. Your inability to focus is not a personal failing. It is a biological response to living in an environment your nervous system was never designed to handle. A 2023 study from Stanford University found that the average knowledge worker experiences 87 interruptions per day, fragmenting their attention into microscopic shards. Your brain is not broken, it is simply overloaded. But there is a solution, and it comes from a practice that has existed in Japan for over 4 decades. It is called Shinrin Yoku, which translates directly to forest bathing. Not hiking, not exercising, not meditating under a tree. Simply being present in nature, allowing your senses to absorb the forest atmosphere. The Japanese understood something profound. Your brain does not need more stimulation. It needs strategic restoration. What makes this fascinating is that modern neuroscience is now confirming what Japanese practitioners have known since the 1980s. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for focus, decision-making, and impulse control, is not designed to operate at full capacity for hours on end. It needs moments of what researchers call soft fascination, where your attention can rest and recover. And forests provide the perfect environment for this restoration. Here is my question for you. When was the last time you gave your brain permission to rest without guilt? Comment below and tell me what happened, because what I am about to share with you is not just about improving your focus. It is about understanding why your current approach to learning and productivity is actively sabotaging your nervous system. My name is Dr. Hannah, and I am a relationship coach with 22 years of experience. I help people heal, grow, and improve their relationships. And I also research Japanese self-care methods to support modern findings on well-being. Today, I want to show you exactly how Shinrin Yoku can transform your ability to learn, focus, and process stress in ways that will feel almost unfair compared to what you are doing right now. The science behind this is not wishful thinking. It is neurochemistry. And once you understand it, you will never look at nature the same way again. Let me start by explaining what Shinrin Yoku actually is, because this is not what you think. In 1982, the Japanese Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries officially coined the term Shinrin Yoku as part of a national public health campaign. The country was experiencing what they called karoshi, which means death by overwork. Employees were collapsing at their desks. Suicide rates were climbing. The entire culture was suffocating under the weight of relentless productivity. The government needed a solution that did not require medication, therapy, or time off work. They needed something simple, accessible, and rooted in Japanese tradition. They found it in the forests. Shinrin Yoku is not about exercise. You are not trying to burn calories or hit a step goal. You are not trying to summit a mountain or complete a trail. You are simply walking slowly through a forest, engaging all 5 of your senses. You notice the way sunlight filters through the leaves. You listen to the rustle of branches and the distant call of birds. You feel the texture of tree bark under your fingertips. You breathe in the scent of pine needles and damp earth. The practice is deeply connected to Zen Buddhism, particularly the concept of muga, which means no self or losing the ego. When you practice Shinrin Yoku correctly, you stop thinking about your to-do list, your deadlines, your performance, your worth. You dissolve into the present moment. You become nothing more than awareness itself. Think of it this way. Your brain is like a computer with 47 browser tabs open, 6 applications running in the background, and 100 notifications pinging every 3 minutes. Shinrin Yoku is the equivalent of closing all those tabs, shutting down the applications, and letting your processor cool down before it overheats and crashes. The Japanese philosophy behind this is simple but profound. Nature does not ask anything of you. It does not judge your productivity. It does not measure your worth. It simply exists, and in its presence, you can exist too without performance anxiety. Now, here is where it gets really interesting. In the early 2000s, researchers at Chiba University in Japan began studying what actually happens in the human body during Shinrin Yoku. What they discovered changed the conversation around stress, focus, and cognitive performance forever. Dr. Ching Li, one of the leading researchers in forest medicine, conducted a study in 2009 with 280 participants across multiple forest environments. What he found was extraordinary. After just 15 minutes of forest bathing, participants experienced a 12.4% decrease in cortisol levels, a 7% decrease in sympathetic nervous activity, and a 1.4% increase in parasympathetic nervous activity. Let me translate that for you. Their stress hormones dropped, their fight or flight response calmed down, and their rest and digest system activated. But the benefits went far beyond stress reduction. A 2019 study from the University of Michigan found that spending 20 to 30 minutes in nature 3 times per week boosted cognitive performance by 20% and improved memory retention by 19%. The researchers measured participants before and after nature exposure using standardized cognitive tests, and the results were undeniable. Here is why this matters for your ability to learn. When you are chronically stressed, your brain produces excessive amounts of cortisol, which actively shrinks your hippocampus, the part of your brain responsible for forming new memories and consolidating learning. High cortisol also impairs your prefrontal cortex, which means your ability to focus, make decisions, and regulate emotions plummets. Shinrin Yoku does something remarkable. It lowers cortisol while simultaneously increasing the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain cells. It helps neurons grow, connect, and communicate more effectively. It is one of the primary mechanisms behind learning and neuroplasticity. There is also something called phytoncides, which are antimicrobial compounds that trees release into the air to protect themselves from disease. When you breathe in phytoncides during Shinrin Yoku, they trigger an increase in natural killer cells in your immune system, but they also activate your parasympathetic nervous system. Your brain interprets these compounds as a signal that you are safe, which allows your body to drop its guard and enter a state of deep rest. A 2022 study from Stanford University, led by Dr. Gregory Bratman, found that participants who walked in nature for 90 minutes showed reduced activity in the subgenual prefrontal cortex, a brain region associated with rumination and negative self-talk. The participants who walked in urban environments showed no change. This is critical. Your brain is not sabotaging you. It is protecting you from an environment that feels dangerous because it is overstimulating. Your nervous system evolved in forests, savannas, and open landscapes. It did not evolve in fluorescent lit offices with constant email notifications and back-to-back Zoom calls. When you remove yourself from that environment and return to nature, your brain exhales. It stops running threat assessments every 3 seconds. It stops scanning for danger. It finally rests. So, how do you actually apply this? Because reading about Shinrin Yoku and practicing it are two completely different things. Most people fail at this because they treat it like another productivity hack. They try to optimize it, track it, and measure its return on investment. That is the exact opposite of what you should do. Here is your roadmap. Start with week 1. Find a park, forest, or green space that is within 15 to 20 minutes of your home or office. It does not need to be wilderness. A city park with trees will work. Set a timer for 20 minutes and walk slowly, slower than you think you should. Do not listen to music. Do not listen to podcasts. Do not check your phone. This is non-negotiable. Your only job is to engage your senses. Notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste in the air. This is not mindfulness for the sake of mindfulness. This is training your brain to shift from focused attention to soft fascination, which is the state where your prefrontal cortex can recover. During week 2, extend your walks to 30 minutes and introduce a simple practice. When you notice your mind drifting back to your stress, your work, or your to-do list, gently redirect it to something in your environment. Touch the bark of a tree. Listen to the wind moving through the leaves. Look at the patterns of light and shadow on the ground. You are teaching your brain that it is safe to stop problem solving for a moment. Week 3 is where most people stumble. This is when the novelty wears off and your mind starts negotiating. It will say things like, I am too busy for this, or this is not productive, or I could be using this time to study. This is where you need to understand something critical. Productivity is not linear. Your brain cannot produce high-quality focus for 8 consecutive hours. It needs intervals of restoration, and Shinrin Yoku is that restoration. Schedule your forest walks immediately after your most cognitively demanding tasks. If you are a student, go for a walk after a study session. If you work from home, go for a walk after a difficult meeting or project sprint. Research from the University of Illinois found that cognitive performance improves by 15% after just 10 minutes in nature compared to 10 minutes in an urban environment. By week 4, you should notice something shifting. Your baseline stress level decreases. You fall asleep faster at night. Your thoughts feel less chaotic. When you sit down to study or work, your focus comes more easily. This is not magic. This is your nervous system recalibrating to its natural state. But here is the deeper transformation that most people miss. Shinrin Yoku is not just about improving your focus or reducing stress. It is about changing your relationship with achievement and worth. The forest does not care if you are productive. It does not measure your value based on how much you accomplish. It simply exists, and it allows you to exist too without judgment. This connects to another Japanese concept called shizen, which means naturalness or being in harmony with nature. In Zen philosophy, shizen is the idea that the most powerful way to live is to align with the natural rhythms of the world rather than forcing yourself to operate at an unsustainable pace. A 2021 study from the University of Pennsylvania found that participants who engaged in regular nature exposure reported a 38% increase in life satisfaction and a 22% decrease in symptoms of anxiety and depression over a 6-month period. But what was most interesting was the qualitative data. Participants described feeling less pressured to prove themselves, less obsessed with metrics and outcomes, and more at peace with simply being. This is what the ancient Japanese understood that modern culture has forgotten. You are not a machine. You are a biological organism with natural limits. You cannot optimize your way out of burnout. You cannot productivity hack your way into peace. You need to return to the environment your brain was designed for, even if just for 20 minutes 3 times per week. The tea ceremony, another traditional Japanese practice, follows the same principle. The ritual is slow, deliberate, and intentional. It is not about the tea itself. It is about creating a space where you are fully present, where time slows down, and where your nervous system can drop into a state of rest. Shinrin Yoku is the same. The goal is not to arrive at a destination. The goal is to be fully present in the journey. One more thing you need to understand. This is not about escaping your responsibilities. It is about building the neurological foundation that allows you to meet those responsibilities without collapsing under their weight. Your brain does not need more information. It does not need more strategies. It needs rest. And rest is not something you earn. It is something you require in order to function. Let me synthesize this for you. Shinrin Yoku works because it lowers cortisol, increases BDNF, activates your parasympathetic nervous system, and reduces rumination. But on a deeper level, it works because it reminds you that your worth is not tied to your output. You do not need to feel motivated to start. You do not need to wait until you have more time. You simply need to walk into a forest and allow your senses to do the rest. The ancient Japanese understood that humans are not separate from nature. We are part of it. And when we disconnect from it for too long, we suffer, not because we are weak, but because we are violating the fundamental design of our nervous system. One step into the forest, then another, then another. You do not need to fix yourself. You need to remember what you already are. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing to this channel. I create content to help you heal, grow, and build the life you deserve. And I would love to support you on that journey. Shinrin Yoku is not a productivity hack. It is a return to yourself. And that return begins the moment you step outside and allow nature to meet you exactly where you are. You are not broken. You are overstimulated. And the cure is waiting for you in the forest.